So this will be a video for the Hojo's Lab, or mainly Chapter 17 and the final dungeon. This is going to be subdivided into 4 parts, so I'm going to try and talk about it as it is applicable. You can carry Ironblade into the lab. I might show that off at some point. I have decided to reroute the Ironblade out of early lab and back into Mithril Saber. It's a consequence of the fights behind Specimen being a lot quicker, same with Cloud, and there's a lot of different reasons to do it this way. None of them very good, and none of them really bad either.
Anyway, we gotta get to the roof, right?
But, right off the bat, you could be on Ironblade if you wanted to, but I really wouldn't suggest it anymore. It puts you with really low HP. It limits your offensive capabilities. It's just not that good. Force Bracelet isn't super needed, or isn't really a big issue over Chain Bangle, as long as you have an HP up, which this route does have. So after Specimen, I switch into Mithril Saber with Wind Magnify and Lightning MP Absorb. The MP Absorb used to be there for Wind, but I end up swapping it out so that I have access to Lightning in general. HP up and Stagger are pretty useful. This is basically should be hard equipped to your Mithril Saber. You can juggle ATB staggers around, but ATB stagger only activates on a character that staggers an enemy, so it doesn't matter juggling it around. You just need to have it on somebody that's going to stagger stuff, and then it pays off. So there's no reason to do all that extra issue. HP up. This could be an MP up if you really wanted to, but I really would not suggest it at all. You get 90% MP recovery in Barret and Cloud's side, so the HP up is more than paid off. You don't need the MP up. Double magic up, yeah, that's basically. Oh no. Double magic up, first strike, and ATB boost. ATB boost you're gonna end up using a lot. I'll show you off Tifa, but this really isn't... She's not optimized yet, so this is just kind of stuff that she has. Oh my god. Google Translate %. Tifa is also really screwed up right now, so this stuff really doesn't mean much. But Barret is a little bit set up. He's halfway there. You can go with double luck up. You can go with an MP up and a luck up, whichever you prefer. You could go with double MP up if that's really what you want. I'm going to go with double luck up, just because Barret's damage is too low for anything else. So that covers the materia. Barret really isn't, like, set up any special way, but that's how it is. Oh, freaking voice lines with text-to-speech. Oh, God. So this fight's a lot simpler when you have Magnify on the table. You could give Aerith Magnify, but Cloud's gonna be in every fight. Aerith's not gonna be in any fight for a while, so we're gonna start with Arrow Magnify into... wait. The way you should start this fight is completely different. Excuse me. Good lord, I just have an infinite amount of snot today, I guess. Sorry about that. Not much you can do, I guess. So you want to ATB boost right off the bat here, and then Arrow Magnify. Blade Burst, whatever's left over. Like that, and there you go. Fight's over. The reason we can get away with Blade Burst is it's magic-based, so the damage it outputs on Mithril Blade is ridiculously high. You don't need to bother healing Aerith and Tifa or Cloud unless their HP is really, really low here. Cloud, not so much, but we'll be using Self-Destruct with him, so his HP will start going up and down really rapidly. So we don't need to worry about him being at max at some point. Aerith and Tifa both have Bloodsucker, so as they kill enemies, they're going to siphon HP back into their pool. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. That was one of those camera management things that I should have done. So we're just going to switch over to this. Switch the switch. Of note, these whenever you open these pods with Cloud, you cannot skip the cutscene, but whenever you open these pods with Tifa and Aerith, you can skip immediately as soon as you're done pulling the switch, so keep that in mind. This first fight here we can just completely avoid, so we're not going to bother doing it. This is something that, like, you need to be aware of throughout the entire course of the game. The thing is, intermission, Yuffie's percent, there's one fight you can run away from, but in the main game, there's a lot of fights you can just flat out ignore. They did a really good job of balancing forced combat and unforced combat.
Thanks.
So you want to start ATB boost here, into Arrow Magnify, into Triple Slash. That'll be enough to kill these guys, if you don't get unlucky. So Wynn flung him in the air, and then I believe Red backed up and slapped him too. That's not very common that that guy gets launched that hard. I think it was a matter of, like, getting launched with wind, actually, and me being in a Triple Slash animation, so the game got really annoyed. And flung him where I was, instead of where I was when I... Well...
You sure? Yes.
That's the first time that hasn't worked, but whatever. You can hold off on the Triple Slash if you want, but Arrow Magnify will never kill those, too. I've found it's not consistent. I don't know why it will kill that ones in the room with Tifa and Aerith. Probably because they're doing a little bit of poking to finish them off. This room right here can be really obnoxious, so I'm going to save down here and kind of show it off a few times. So the way that this room works is you can kind of... We'll take a peek through the door here and talk about it as we go. You see that mono drive with that frickin' magic spell around him? That's actually a barrier spell. So the only way you can break that with is magic. The other big one will also cast a magic reflect spell. So what we're going to do is we're going to Arrow Magnify that one, and then we're going to Catastrophe that one with Barret. That's the easiest way to handle this nonsense. So you want to make sure to Arrow Magnify, and then you can just do this however you want. But B is usually the one you want to aim for. But that'll knock out everything.
Let's do this.
Yes, it's my turn.
That's very interesting. So if your ATB is really screwy, you can do this. And you also take a bunch of damage for it. But since we have Thunder MP Absorb, we can just spam Thundera until we feel like we want to kill him. You do lose out on a little bit of MP on that last one, because the Morph has less HP.
If you say so.
You could also Blade Burst the end of that as well, if you're wanting to shave MP cost. Remember, you have MP Absorb, but it also depends on what the HP value of your target is. So if your target doesn't have enough HP, you're not going to siphon as much off of your MP Absorb. It's really kind of weird and hard to quantify, I guess. But once again, I'll do this with the actual, so you can Arrow Mag, drive A, and then you want to limit, drive B. That's pretty much a hard rule. But you see how this guy's got that magic barrier on? That's what we're worried about. Recharge. Okay, so we're gonna Thundera, ATB boost, Thundera, and Barret here has the Synergy Thunder, so he's gonna be doing a lot of damage. Normally, if you're really worried about it, you could switch him to any other element in the Specimen fight, because Specimen is resistant to lightning. I do end up using Lightning Synergy because it works with Valkyrie. If you want, you can use Wind Synergy on him. But I found that Wind Synergy is better on Cloud than on Barret after some testing. It just kind of speeds things up a little bit, and it also, like, reduces MP. Okay, look. They're down there, like, running into each other is why that took so long. Sometimes Red and Barret get in a pissing match on who's going to get up the stairs first. So they'll kind of end up bonking into each other over and over again, so it'll take a while for them to come up the stairs. Sometimes you have to go down there and break it up. Their movements are pretty conflictory. I don't also notice that Barret's feet are clipped through the floor. This game is not. This game is not. Just, it is not. This next fight's pretty straightforward and pretty free. I'll probably do this and Tifa and Aerith's round 1. Because it includes the first big menu and that. So I guess this will be divided into thirds, not quarters. That's fine. Yeah, so that's...
Can you all hear me?
So this is a skippable cutscene here, after you get through these 2 dialogue lines. So make sure you are ready to mash your dialogue and then skip your cutscene type thing.
Thanks.
We'll be waiting right
Roger that.
This area has a lot of those hybrid
You think Cloud's
mash
doing okay?
into cutscene
He's
moments.
been
It's
acting
kind of
weird
weird.
lately. More than
I'm not
usual.
quite sure why they didn't just make the whole damn
But
thing a
it's Cloud.
cutscene, but
I'm
whatever.
sure he'll be fine. But what
I guess
about
they wanted to
you?
make sure you stayed awake
How are
or
you
something.
holding
Also, you want to make sure you
Oh,
pan the
I
camera
guess
up to
this
number
counts for
3
the third
so that
ward,
you don't
right?
get that movement.
I think so.
I looked down on
It looks
purpose
like
just to
the
show
door's
that
locked.
off. That
There has to be something we can
there
do.
is some of that in
Let's
some of these
look around.
segments. Also,
Gotcha.
right here, you can skip immediately. I just want to pause and show that. Or hesitate to show that off rather than just skipping immediately. The moment that you get done pulling the switch, you can
Cloud, We
switch,
found the door.
toggle rather.
About those I think we're
So this next fight's pretty
we're fiddling with
straightforward.
some sort of control panel.
This area is kind of rough because it really
We'll make our way to
Hojo's
Central
lab is one of those areas
team
where
here
like
for
I
this.
always feel like the route is never as good as it should be. And it always feels like I need to go back and reevaluate it. So I may make another video with a different order of equipment and stuff, but for right now that we're gonna go with what we have and not get overly anxious. So this fight right here, we want to start with Aurora, ATB boost, and then Thundera. If you get really lucky, you can hit all of them with the same Aurora, so it'll multi-hit the Blast Ray. That'll kind of tell you what you can and can't do. So we're gonna. What you're looking for is this setup right here. ATB boost. Unfortunate. Okay. I guess I must have had some extremely good luck in my previous runs, so we're gonna do this the way that I've taught myself how to do it. I found that the Aurora can multi-hit, but it seems like it's not hitting the way I expected it to.
going down without a fight.
So we're just gonna wait until the blast rays get... that's what it is. I think the blast rays gotta get closer.
Get ready.
But you... Okay, I'm doing this fight completely wrong. Ignore everything you saw till now. You need to go for ATB boost once you get down to 1 bar. I was testing something out because it propped up. So how you want to do this fight correctly... Well, actually save over here and do it right this time. So, wait till he jumps up, build up to 2 ATB, or at least as close as you feel like. Arrow Magnify,
Calling wind.
ATB boost,
Just in case.
Thundera, and then you can Blade Burst or Thundera, whichever you want.
Buzz off.
I would say Blade Burst. Blade Burst is a bit slower, but actually... So I'll show that off with the Blade Burst version. The only reason you'd want to use Blade Burst is because it wastes less MP. But this depends on your routing for Genova and Rufus. So that's something to keep in mind. So I can just arrow here and I'll build a little bit of ATB. There we go. That's what you're looking for right there. So if you get that stagger off early, you can just do that. And Thundera. You can alternatively just Catastrophe with Barret instead of dicking around and, doing it the slow way. If you get the stagger, though, you get the ATB boost. So there's a lot of, weird things about this fight. But you can just, Catastrophe, whatever. And then Thundera or whatever.
Calling lightning.
Catastrophe should kill. See, this is what I mean. This fight's really stupid. If you're dumb like me, well, Thunder Magnifying. Alright, I'll do the fight correctly one more time. A lot of those were awful. Don't fuck. This is the one you wanted to do. Don't depend on luck or any of the weird stuff. That's why that fight kept turning into a complete show of my sheer stupidity. Sometimes I get really stubborn about doing neat stuff and focus a lot less on what's proper. So we're gonna Arrow Magnify, attack, ATB boost, Thundera, Blade Burst. And that will kill. Even if Blade Burst doesn't, Barret will follow up with this Energy Thunder. You can sometimes get a heavy-duty bracer from these guys, but it really won't matter much. Even if you're having issues with surviving, Cog Bangle is not an option. You need that additional materia slot. You'd have to do a lot of working around to get around having that. We'll do Tifa and Aerith right now, round 1. And then I guess I'll split the lab in half instead of thirds, actually. So this is a pretty major menu. This can be very different, varying on person to person. But if you're following my route, this is going to be the biggest menu, I think, in the course of the entire game. So what we want to do here is we want to switch Aerith over to Wind, so we're going to steal that from Cloud, move this warding into a more advantageous position. We're going to switch Cloud over to Ironblade. This is for the second half of the lab. We're going to actually add Wrecking Ball here. No, because we want to bring in some new materia. So now we're on Barret. This should be here, actually. MP up for warding on Aerith. Or no, that's not correct. Yeah. MP up for refocus. I was right. And then swap that out for warding. We're going to take time over here and put it over First Strike. Now Aerith's got First Strike. We're going to get rid of this fire materia for binding. Now we're going to give Binding and Subversion to Cloud. I want Subversion to be here. It's a matter of, like, my materia gets kind of screwy sometimes, so it can be different. We're going to want to add Cleansing in. This Cleansing is specifically for Jenova fight. At least the fight that I'm currently doing, so this may get cut later. I believe Resist Magnify on Jenova is very powerful, so it is something you should consider if you're having any sort of issues. It'll leave you a lot of avenues of flexibility out of Jenova. It is unimportant for anything else, though. Just keep that in mind. So now we've put Cleansing on, and the only other thing is we want to take this HP up and take the fire. So now what we're looking at is Warding Time. This is for Jenova. Ice Elemental. This is for everything else in between. I end up cutting Ice Elemental from Tifa at very shortly because she's on Metal Knuckles. And no joke, Ice Elemental adds like 10 damage on Jenova. So we end up giving Elemental to Aerith instead, who can actually make use of it. Healing Parry, same thing as usual. Skillmaster Assist, HP up. These are just survival mechanics. Aerith, Wind, Magnify, correct. Lightning, you could use Lightning Magnify for this area. I've got to go back and retest it, but I find that Wind Magnify works better here right now. MP up, you're going to need to add one back in because you have no good way to, like, siphon MP, unless you're going to go Wind Magnify, Wind, MP Absorb. I really wouldn't suggest it. First Strike, Magic up, Skill Master, blah, 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 blah. Same old self-destruct bullshittery. You can actually change this to Lightning. So you can do that in this menu if you want or not. First Strike. And then Barret, we're going to put him back on EKG right now. Nope. So this is what Barret's going to look like. You can cut the luck up for one of the luck ups for MP up, but I find it's not necessary at any point. So that's Aerith right there. This is what you're looking at. Thunder out. Where'd you get... Oh, because I haven't changed her shortcuts ever. Yeah, these shortcuts aren't exactly right. She would be on this. This is what she would look like because of the Eligor fight. That's all you need to change. Cloud, we're going to move his Thundera up to here, actually. You don't have to do this with his Self-Destruct and Thundera. I do this because Self-Destruct is always on circle, so I try and keep it consistent throughout the whole run that certain commands are always in the same spot so that you make less input errors. You can just let your shortcut menu flow however it works, optimally. But I find that making sure you keep consistency is far more important to reducing misinput errors than messing around with having like very special or specific setups for each fight. Unless you want to sit there and grind out each individual fight, this is the best way to deal with it. Actually, I want to make sure I don't interact with that right now. I want to save and load. Alright, so this fight right here, you could somersault. I just arrow magnify these guys and get it out of the way. There's nothing too special with this fight, just arrow mag and done.
Enjoy the ride. It's over.
Yep. The other thing is she also gets the Bloodsucker HP back. You also want to save load right here. Oh, fuck. Well, you want to save load right here so you can get some movement speed. I guess I won't be able to show off that fight again, but, I mean, that one's really not that big. Not that important. This is one of the save loads you want to use if you're on PS5. If you're on PC, you also should be doing save loads, especially if you're using the load remover that we have in the Discord. There's no reason not to. So this next room is the hardest one out of all. So the dogs here can either spawn a wave of 3 and then 1 dog for each one you kill, or all 6 at once. The chances of getting all 6 at once are determined, like, before this fight even starts. There's 3 fights that can that you can have all the waves spawn at once. There's one in Chapter 4 where the troopers come out of the door in the first phase. If those 2 doors open up immediately and they come out, you'll get all the dogs here. There's a fight in Chapter 12 at the very top of the pillar where it's a shock trooper plus 2 turrets, and then 2 helitroopers will spawn. If those helitroopers spawn immediately, you'll get all the dogs here. You can get all the dogs here after those, because whatever the RNG that screws it up can still happen. But for the most part, those are your tells. You want to make sure that your Aerith isn't low HP here, because she gets mauled really hard in this fight. So you need to be very careful. So you want to arrow magnify and just keep poking away with Tifa to make sure that Aerith is getting staggers off of each one of the dogs.
Enjoy the ride.
So you're trying to group the dogs up as much as possible and then just spam. I think it's just this guy left, right?
That's it.
You want to go for the stagger into... Oh, okay. Aerith. That's... So this is a shortcut thing. Okay, that was an oversight. I usually change this out to Soul Drain so that I can siphon some MP back off of staggered enemies. One note that's very important is battle settings. Wow, her MP is really low. That's lower than I've ever seen it in a while, I think. Battle settings, Aerith, Soul Drain. Unleashes, absorbs MP. So if an enemy's staggered, she gets 15% of her max MP back. And if you Soul Drain a unstaggered foe, it's 3%. But we're going to have to grab a lot of the MP crates here. Her MP is a lot lower than it should be. I'm not quite sure why, actually. That's... Did I really cast that many Auroras?
I really wish you
Somersault into Soul Drain. So you want to Soul Drain off this fight, because Somersault will one-shot this NNA here. You can Soul Drain in the next fight as well, but the ZNNAs are kind of random in what you get. You could use an Aerogun Magnify strat to pull them both together to get the Somersault. The reason I don't do that is it's really MP intensive. That's an extra 21 MP you've burned on Aerith, and that's a full MP crate, right? Trying to, like... The thing with Aerith is, like, her damage is completely dependent on her MP count. So at any point that her MP count starts dipping and she's not able to cast spells, puts you in a really hard position. So I try and find the best workarounds that I can for ignoring stuff. I always like to turn around and do Somersault like this. But that happens sometimes. So in this scenario, you just, like, arrow magnify twice. And that should pull them both into you. And you can just kind of Soul Drain if you want. Soul Drain, Cruise Strike. I mean, honestly, like, a lot of these fights, it's easiest to just kind of wipe them out like that.
No surprises there.
I'm going to go back to the dog room, because my MP is kind of jank. I want to show it off a few times. The dog room is basically spam arrow magnify, magnify rather. If you're really uncertain about keeping Aerith alive, you can switch to her manually.
Come on, really?
But I find it's better to stick to Tifa, because then you can stay on top of what's getting hit. Okay, could you just... we're gonna stagger.
Go for it
That
now.
is incorrect again.
Thank you. Go on.
Okay, we're gonna arrow
You'll be
again.
blown away.
Why is her MP so low?
Sorry, but I gotta.
I did it again! I did it again! Doo -doo -doo. You can also get some cheesy cures off if you do things right. So let me load this and actually fix my soul drain. Her MP is... What the hell, man? It's really weird. Her MP is extremely low. I'm not quite sure what... It shouldn't be that low. Did I only used Aurora. Her max MP is 19. I'm confused as to where her other 11 MP went to. I guess I must have arrow... Oh, that's the problem. Okay. That's why my MP was so low. You want to use Aurora Magnify, not Aurora. Aurora is what you have at the start with her for Reno and Rude. Aurora you will have when you get to Eligor. That's the problem. Okay. That explains a lot of things. So Aurora Magnify, really, as you can... I'll show you. It doesn't really make much of a difference. It just ends up costing you more MP in the long run. It's 11 more per shot, and you really don't need it, because you're going to end up having to two-shot the enemies anyway.
Why can't you cut a girl of blade?
So that's part of the issue I was having right there.
Let's pour out
Aurora Magnify.
I think we're
Aurora
almost
Magnify.
done. Let me handle. Lend me your strength.
There you go. That's what you're looking for, right? Kind of see how that works out, and her MP is a lot higher. And I didn't really need an additional... The Aurora Magnify made 0 difference. Don't be afraid to grab crates with Tifa and Aerith if you need MP for either of them. The MP up is solely there so that she gets 19 out of every MP crate instead of 13. So you're just gonna somersault immediately here into Soul Drain. You want a Soul Drain if you can get away with it with Aerith. You could give Tifa First Strike. For a newer runner, I probably would go through the effort of giving First Strike to both Cloud and Barret and Tifa and Aerith. I don't anymore. Tifa and Barret are mainly limit mules. That's their best way to output damage really quick. Tifa can one-shot almost anything with a limit, and Barret will can one-shot an entire room with limit. His damage is too low to really be arsed to give him First Strike, but you can toggle that between both, and I would suggest it for a newer runner, and then cut it out later. You might even find better strats using First Strike than what I do. A lot of my stuff is a little bit more YOLO. Probably could be a lot better. So we're just gonna limit this guy because I screwed that up. What you're aiming for is that. That's what you want right there.
Would kill for
with those Zeninaes. What you saw the first time is how that fight normally will go. But that's what you're aiming for, is somersault to tag both of them. This fight right here is pretty straightforward. I'll show it twice, but it's not that... Well, yeah, I'll show all the fights one more time after this. We'll heal up just because we can. This fight right here, you want to make sure you walk forward a little bit with Tifa, then somersault, so that she doesn't whiff this somersault. It's really weird that she can, but she will. So somersault, Thundera, Thundera.
Sorry, but I got.
And then make sure you switch to Tifa here, and that'll warp Aerith over. If I had mashed a little bit harder, I would have got the cure out ahead of time. Alright, so I'll show off the rooms one more time, and then we'll be done with this segment. Now let me just double check and make sure that I saved after I did my re-menuing. Yep, okay. So my MP is a little bit lower because that accidental Aurora. You're honestly not in that bad of a position. We're gonna arrow Okay, Aerith Soul Drain.
I won't let you down. Too bright?
Yep. So that's not too bad. If you're down to just one dog, you're better off with a Thundera. You can Thundera Magnify. The problem is, like, you would probably think that's good for the Sledgeworms. Problem is, they end up popping up and down. And if you whiff that Magnify, you lose a lot of damage on a single target. When you could... Okay, I did something there that I'm not supposed to do. You want to be careful with that. I accidentally shortcutted a Thundera there, which would have cost me MP. You don't have to reset for that, but I want to make sure I'm showing these fights properly rather than like, oopsie, I did the wrong thing. You know what I mean? So you want to go Somersault and Soul Drain. You have plenty of time to get that Soul Drain in.
That's
So there's no pressure. You have a good 5 or 6 seconds. If you're really worried about it, you can always just go in through the shortcut of R2 or L2, whatever, to bring up Tifa shortcuts, or Aerith shortcuts, rather. So we're going to heal up and then kick out of it. I just healed up beforehand so I could get the MP out of it, but you didn't really have to. Honestly, you could put healing on Aerith, but the problem is finding a slot for it is rough. Very rough. So, like, I'm going to turn around, somersault these again. I'll probably end up killing just a single one, and then I'll show you kind of, like... My backup is a little bit fluid. It depends on where the other Zenene is, how far away he is, how close he is to the door. So you want to turn around, somersault this guy. And that's what you're aiming for right there. So we're just going to uppercut cancel into this. Then you can just true strike. So what you're trying to do is get as close to this door as possible so you can just go right underneath it. That's the reason I switched back to Aerith, but the game decided Tifa was close enough and pushed me back to her instead of warping her over. We're gonna somersault over here, like I said. Make sure you take a couple of steps in first, like I said. So you want to do that. Thundera, and then switch over to Tifa and warp Aerith to you. So there you go. You could Thundera Magnify those turrets if you're going with a Thundera Magnify strat. I'll probably show off Thundera Magnify at some point and do a different video complete for a different lab. But if you Thundera Magnify, what it'll do is it'll stagger both of the turrets. Then you can Soul Drain them individually and refill your MP completely. So that's going to be that for this segment of the lab. My lab is normally around 22 minutes of chicanery when I'm doing it right and not skipping or resetting.
You two stay.
So we're going to split this up into 2 halves. Maybe into thirds, I'm not 100% sure yet. But what we're going to do is just flip this switch, and then there's a slight menu after this that I'll show off. But I will save beforehand, and then we will cut the video. And we will do the second half of the lab separately. That is a skippable cutscene. I shouldn't have been mashing through it. So we're going to save load here. And then we're going to switch over. Normally, all I do here is I switch Cloud's magic ups back to magic up. Like I said, he still has first strike, so you could cut just about anything off of Barrett for first strike if you really wanted it. The problem is it's kind of like an awkward position to the point where you have to like do a lot of dumb stuff. I find that I can handle these rooms without first strike, but that's your choice. All right, so that's it for the first part of this, and we'll move on to the next part and see if we can get all of that in one go. Peace. Hope this helped.